Welcome to Naviant Solution Spotlight this month on the topic of OnBase Mobile. The agenda today, again, we're talking about OnBase Mobile. As normal, I'm going to be going through what is OnBase Mobile, why would you potentially need it, how does it work, there will be a demonstration here, how do you get the module, and finally some recap and questions at the end of this webinar. So let's get going with this. What is OnBase Mobile? All things said and done, it's really taking the functionality that you have inside of OnBase at your desktop and now extending that to your mobile device, regardless of what that is. If you have an Apple device, if you have an Android device, tablet or phone, we're able to extend a lot of that commonly used functionality to that device. So what we're talking about here is being able to retrieve documents via the custom queries functionality inside of OnBase, to be able to interact with your workflow through your mobile device, to be able to complete and submit Unity forms, potentially starting a process or just gathering some further information, or being able to take pictures or using your photo library from your mobile device to upload documents into OnBase. So think field service. There's somebody out there that needs to be capturing those documents, getting it very quickly into OnBase, that can be done with this OnBase Mobile. And as I was thinking about this, I just realized, boy, I really feel lost when I leave home without my mobile device, which made me think back to the good old days of the Carl Malden commercials back in the 70s for the American Express card. Don't leave home without it. Well, I pretty much feel the exact same way. So you think about that, you hopefully have OnBase in your pocket wherever you are in the world to be able to, again, very quickly perform some of these functions that we just mentioned. So a little bit of history here, because some people that have been around OnBase for a while might be saying, well, isn't there already a mobile platform available? Well, there is, and there has been for quite some time. I believe this was introduced back in the day of OnBase 10, that there was a product called Mobile Access 4, and you name the platform. There was one for iPhone, iPad, Android, Windows, and anybody remember BlackBerry? There was actually an application that was developed specifically for the BlackBerry platform. And those were separately licensed products. So a number of you on this webinar might have those today, and they serve their purpose. They have those same baseline capabilities that we're talking about, retrieving documents, interacting with your workflow, being able to import documents, completing Unity forms. And if you had the iPad piece, was an offline access component to that called the iPad briefcase, where before you went out in the field, where you might have internet access, you could take documents and actually download them for offline access when you did lose that mobile connectivity. But there were some concerns with that legacy OnBase Mobile product. Each of those products were licensed separately. So if you had your user community that had iPads, iPhones, Android devices, Blackberries, you might need to license multiple products. And that started to become somewhat costly as we went along here. The interface was designed for that mobile operating system, and back in the day, that's how it really needed to be done. But that led to some problems where there was a different experience on each of these different mobile operating systems, which led to slightly different abilities for each of those different platforms also. So difficult to support or suddenly switch from Android to iPhone, which I recently. Yeah, there's a learning curve there with that. But now introduce this new OnBase Mobile component. There's a number of nice features and functionality to this. For starters, this was just released now with OnBase EP4. So if this is something of interest to you, need I say you need to upgrade to Foundation EP4 to be able to take advantage of these capabilities. And here's the real kicker, folks. There is no license that's required to enable this OnBase Mobile functionality. Everybody that's going to be on OnBase Foundation EP4 and beyond can enable these capabilities. The only licensing that you need to worry about are your client licenses. When I log on, obviously I need to have that baseline capability license, user license, to be able to access the system. I'm interacting with workflow. I'm going to need to make sure that I have the appropriate level license for workflow client access. So very nice, very economical, regardless of which of the different platforms that you're going to roll this out to. We effectively need to install some server-side components, and then anybody could go ahead and enable this. Obviously, you need to have the application on your mobile device, and that's going to be available on the different platform stores. Those are available today. So if you wanted to see at least the shell of the application, you can do that by going out and searching for Hyland Mobile on the appropriate platform store. While what we're talking about is the OnBase Mobile piece, it does run from within the Hyland Mobile application. So keep that in mind as you're going to be sharing that with any of your users once this is enabled. Obviously, if your backend system is not configured for this, it's not going to do anything. You have no system to communicate to, but it is available there. The interface now becomes consistent across all of these different mobile platforms. So you don't really need to worry about that learning curve, or from a support perspective, what's your mobile operating system? No, have them fire up OnBase Mobile. It should look the same. Obviously, the screen real estate might be a little bit different if they're working on an iPad versus an Android phone or something like that. But where things are located, what the functionality is going to be consistent across those different mobile devices. And how this is working, it's now leveraging the new OnBase API server. And without getting too technical into that, that effectively is that middleware, that there is no license for the OnBase API server. That's something that's going to have to be downloaded, installed, and configured to communicate with the rest of your OnBase system, which now, and we'll see this in just a moment, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Those mobile users will effectively be connecting to your OnBase via that API server. So what that really means, again, that are familiar with the legacy mobile access 4, named the platform, the mobile broker is no longer going to be used going forward. The new API server is what that middleware is going to be. So let's talk, why might you need this? Well, I think I've already explained a lot of this, and people probably already understand it. Improve cost and efficiency, regardless of where you are, you have those OnBase capabilities. Hopefully, again, in your pocket, assuming you carry your mobile device like I do, regardless of where you are. We have that convenient access to documents and those processes on the go. So you could leave the office, and if you're a participant in workflow, you could go ahead and make those approvals directly from your mobile device rather than waiting to get back to the office. There you go. Make familiar and repetitive workflow decisions quickly and easily without that need to get back to your desk to that full OnBase interface. From the field office perspective, if you need to be capturing photos or documents, we have those capabilities right there rather than bringing the pieces of paper back into the office in some form or fashion. Do it right there and upload it into OnBase. And again, we're leveraging your company's existing mobile device investments. I'm hearing from most organizations nowadays, it's a bring your own device, BYOD type of paradigm. So you don't really get to control what your users are bringing. This new paradigm works very nicely, compatible with Apple and Android devices, that you don't have to worry about who's carrying what device. Well, assuming they're carrying something mainstream, it's going to work for them. So how does it work? You need to have an existing OnBase implementation, and this is going to work regardless of whether you have a premise-based implementation or if you are cloud hosted, whether that's the Hyland Cloud or whether you have this hosted up in Amazon Web Services or some other provider. This is going to work. It just needs to be configured accordingly. That OnBase API server needs to be installed and configured accordingly to communicate with your backend OnBase system. Now, typically, this API server is going to be installed and configured in your DMZ. And again, don't want to get too detailed for everybody, but that's effectively now saying, I have the security surrounding my entire OnBase system in a secure environment, but now I need to make some components to that available to effectively the internet for the users that are configured accordingly, that need to access this information. We're still going to be authenticating into OnBase, so you shouldn't have to worry about anybody getting to some sensitive data that shouldn't be there. But then that connection is configured through the internal firewall to the back end of your OnBase system. Something that's newly being introduced to you, you're going to see more and more of this if you haven't already, is that the Hyland Identity Provider, IDP for short, is now being used for security access. So rather than building into the OnBase mobile application the capabilities to log in, they're just saying, hey, OnBase or Hyland IDP, log in for me. We'll see that within the demo how that ultimately works, but that makes things much more flexible, fluid, and greater capabilities for even integrating with third-party single sign-on providers such as Okta or some of those other systems that are out there. Obviously, the mobile application needs to be installed on the device. So you can leave that to the user to go ahead and install that or push that however you might be pushing other applications to your mobile devices. And that device then needs to be configured to connect through that API server that's going to leverage that identity provider for the authentication. Hopefully that wasn't too technical for everybody, but that's really what needs to happen behind the scenes. Here's a nice little graphical of how that works. On the left-hand side, truly being that mobile device, the different capabilities within that mobile device, and then through the internet, connecting to that API server, utilizing that Hyland Identity Provider, securely connects to the back end of your OnBase system, which includes your disk groups, your OnBase database, so on and so forth, to be able to serve up that document search, that workflow capability, to enable those forms and uploading documents into the system. All right, which is a great time to get us into a demonstration here. So rather than doing this live, I actually have recorded a video starting off with my iPad. As you can see here, the Hyland mobile application has been installed. When I first come in here, a few things are going to look different. We can log in, but notice we do have biometric login. So if you have that enabled within your mobile device for fingerprint or face recognition, that can be done. But this is that Hyland Identity Provider now stepping in to authenticate us. And again, this provides some great additional capabilities, but once we're authenticated here, we see the Hyland mobile application with my splash screen for the different capabilities we've been talking about. The hamburger menu up here, anywhere we are, allows us to get back to that point. We also have some settings in the upper right-hand corner. So some of the settings under the general allows us to make some changes to the language. Currently supported are both English and Spanish. We can change from dark theme to light theme and vice versa. We'll just set this back to the light theme. More things, we have the version information under the about. And finally, we also do have the ability to log out, which we're not going to do that now. But wherever we are, we can use the back arrow to take us back one level, given we can capture some of the analytics to help improve OnBase. But again, get back to the screen. Now I'm going into my queries. And I let that run just a little bit too quickly. Those would be the custom queries that are configured, that you have rights to, that are extended to you. And now I'm seeing those variables that I can still use, like your F6 on the keyboard, to add additional keywords and do Boolean searches. So I'm searching for Cooper or office supply warehouse. Here's my hit list. I do have the capability to sort that hit list or alphabetically or reverse alphabetically, but then I could select any one of these documents to actually get into it. We're on the home page, the document itself, and notice down I have all the controls to zoom out. I can also use pinch and zoom, some of the same gestures that you normally have. The capability also over here to say, hey, let's fit this to the width or the height or actual size. And do rotation here if something's not in the proper orientation. Notice we have a keyword tab. Keywords are read-only on the mobile devices. We should be able to modify them, but we can see those keywords. We can also get to our notes. This document has no note, but down here, notice you can create a note plus button. That's going to be available on any one of these. So let's create a note from the document itself. Now, notes are just a little bit different, and let me explain this as we go along here. Think in your client, your Unity client. When you add notes that actually can put a sticky note on the document or like that, or you have highlights, things like that, that's currently not supported within the mobile. here. That's just going to be adding now to a notes list, which is available here. And through the ellipse, I can edit and delete those particular notes as need be. If there was a note already on the document, again, that's a key note or a highlight. Unfortunately, that does not carry through to the mobile device at the time. All right, so moving backwards and back to my document search hit list, let's just go back to the hamburger menu and go into workflow. Now, workflows, this again is going to be what has been exposed to me based on my security, based upon some settings and workflow saying, is this a mobile friendly workflow or cycle? Then capabilities to search as well as sort my information here. So when I expand any one of those are the different queues that I have rights to. I could go into any one of these, but I could also search here. Notice that brings up my search. If I just type INV, I'm only going to see those queues that have the word there's INV within them. And now I can come to any of these different queues. Again, I can sort information. I can even further search inside of here, but let's just go ahead and take this one for Anderson Consulting, bring it up. This looks very similar to what we just did within the document table. A lot of the same capabilities, same with the keywords, same with the notes. The only real addition that we have is that when I click on my plus down here would be to exit workflow task as well as our related documents. I just don't have anything here. So if I want to go ahead and execute any of my workflow tasks, that's do whatever is exposed to me from my workflow task, I can go ahead and submit. Very simple. There was no user interaction here, so that task completed, moved it along within my queue very simply. Now, rather than showing you the rest of these items here on an iPad, I'm going to log out and show you the rest of this on my iPhone. Sorry, I didn't do this for Android, but very similar. There's a Hyland Mobile. There's my OnBase Mobile app inside of here. Again, I'm going to be authenticating and logging in. That biometrics capability extends to both platforms, but I'm just logging in as my AP user again. And similar thing, just the screen real estate's a little bit different. So I can come into my document my hamburger menu, my settings, but I can ultimately come in here and let's just finish up here by doing a document upload. I click on add pages. I'm good. How do I want to get to things through the photo library or take a picture? Just taking a picture of a document. Notice down here I can even capture video if I wish, if I wanted to truly do a video here. Obviously, I have to start. There's a document mode that can do the auto crop for us, but let's go back to the actual photo. So I truly could include a picture, but I do have some capabilities once I take a picture of that. Notice it gives me a little thumbnail here that I can get in here. I can need or say this is okay. And then move forward. If I took multiple pages, I should sort them here so that they would come into the system associated with a single document, or delete individual pages as need be. Or I can even come in here now, edit this document. Notice I have the edit capabilities and some things such as rotation, rotate left, rotate right. If I wanted to invert it, like I got the onion skin side, or even come in here and now say, let's go ahead and crop this. I have those crop capabilities. Try to remove all of that background stuff because that takes up size inside of OnBase. Then I can go ahead and do that crop and ultimately come into the system and say, hey, I want to go ahead and upload this into OnBase, select the OnBase document types, again, that you have permissions to, and then provide the indexing information. Now your autofills are going to work here just like they're configured within the rest of your system. So notice it filled in my vendor name for me automatically. Required keywords are extended here, calendars automatically pop up here, so on and so forth. Ultimately, index the document, submit it. That's when it's uploading into OnBase automatically through that API server, and you get a confirmation that it uploaded. Finally, just to finish this off, let's talk about forms. Again, these are the different Unity forms that have been configured. Unity form, search capabilities here, obviously filter, sort. When I open this up, this is natively a Unity form, which is smart to the device that you're on. So it'll adjust the size of the fields to fit accordingly. Even if we switch to landscape mode, it could do that. Similar capabilities where the autofills work as need be, and we can have all of the Unity form logic for the rules and things like that. ensuring that we're capturing good information on the mobile device right from the get-go. Okay, and we'll just finish this up by logging out. And hopefully that gives you a good understanding of how this interface actually will work as we move forward. Now, just a few more slides here in the next 10 minutes that we have roughly, hopefully leaving a few minutes for questions at the end here. This is the first release that I just showed you of the new OnBase Mobile. So with that in mind, they're still going to be enhancing things further, reiterating what I've shown you within the demo for what the current capabilities are. We can retrieve documents via those custom queries. We have the capability of doing the document manipulation, the zoom, rotation, all of those other image controls. We can view the keywords. We can view and create notes. Again, not putting that note on top of the document, that would appear within our notes panel. We have workflow capabilities where we can view the related documents, execute our ad hoc tasks above and beyond the native document manipulation capabilities that we talked about. We can import documents. We can complete and submit Unity forms, as we've talked. We have that capability of now supporting native to the device, that biometric authentication. So what we're talking about, the touch or the Face ID on iOS, as well as the fingerprint recognition on an Android device. And the reminder that this does require the use of that Hyland identity provider in order to make this work. Some of the things that are not there, and there's some exceptions here, and I just wanted to highlight this. We're not going to go into details because there are a lot of exceptions here. Some functionality that just does not extend to the mobile device yet. Full text search is not there. We don't have foldering, nor do we have foldering search via those custom queries. Some workflow capabilities here that we need to keep in mind here. A lot of the user interaction that we have inside of workflow might be creating a form and displaying that form for input. That currently is not supported yet. Hopefully it's on the roadmap and we'll see that in the future, but keep that in mind that some of your workflow might need to be modified accordingly for your mobile device users, that we might not be able to capture all of the user interaction that we might normally do from a desktop environment. We do not have support for HTML forms. It's only for Unity forms, and there are some things inside of Unity forms that I haven't detailed here that are limitations on the mobile device that don't work so well. Some things, other nice things like capturing a signature on a mobile form, a Unity form, those are still there. Don't worry about that piece. And as we talked about, the notes are not rendered on the documents. I'm not going to go through this list, but this is something else that I found from Hyland for some of the other things that are not currently supported. Also, you can see some of the different categories for uploading and indexing documents, viewing security mask keywords, viewing encrypted keywords are not there yet. So keep that in mind. This is not designed, nor will it probably ever be designed to be a replacement of the OnBase desktop application. It's just not reasonable to do that with a very small footprint for your device and to put those product capabilities on par with the web or the Unity client or the client capabilities. All right. Some of you might question, hey, I already own some access for iPad, iPhone, Android, another platform. Well, it's still there. It is a legacy, now considered to be a legacy product. It continues to be sold and supported. But don't expect any enhancements or architectural change coming along with that. So if you do own that today, you can continue to use that. A few things I want to highlight is the mobile broker that we talked about that is not being used for the new OnBase Mobile. They are putting that into Foundation EP5. We are not at EP5 yet, so that is coming within the next few months, that there will be a new mobile broker, and they are, after they release it with EP5, they plan on porting that back to EP3 function so that you can upgrade it, run your legacy mobile broker from base 18 or prior. So that's still there, that's still going to be maintained. It's really your choice. You can use that or whether you migrate forward into the OnBase Mobile at some point in time in the future. So how do you get it? As we talked about before, there is no additional licensing for it. I'd recommend that you contact your Naviant account executive. Reminder that you need on Foundation EP4 or above, but it's not something that you just give it to me and it's going to work. It does require that configuration of the API server, IDP, to make that all work. So there typically is going to be some services engagement unless your staff is up to speed on that API server or the IDP piece. Just a couple of related products as you're getting your questions together. Just wanted to point out that as we're talking about mobile here, if you workview or case management, there are capabilities, and again, there's going to be some requirements here for the version of OnBase that you're running, that you can deploy that workview or case management application as a mobile app. Really, it's simplifying that workview application that it can now fit properly on an iPhone or an Android device, so on and so forth. So keep that in mind if you're running workview, that you could feel deployed now this workview application to either capture workview records from the field or still continue the update of any of those data elements. And the last thing I wanted to point out is that the combined viewer has been defined in recent versions under the Hyland Experience platform. Hyland Experience is going to be, haven't seen this yet, more mobile-friendly applications. They really are separate applications that work with the rest of the OnBase platform, but their combined viewer is mobile-friendly. That if you are using combined viewer in any fashion, you might want to take a look at that going forward. With that, we have a few minutes for questions here. I do have a couple questions that I'll run through relatively quickly. Does the license have to be named a license or concurrent? Okay, so that's an interesting question. It depends upon which Hyland licensing model that you are. All said and done, if you are on the legacy, if you've been on OnBase for more than a year, you're on what is now called the legacy licensing model, that you really need to have a concurrent or a named license. It really doesn't make a difference. You just need to have that client license that allows you to log into OnBase that extends to the mobile platform. Is there a cost for the API server or the Hyland IDP? No, there's not a cost for those servers. All things said and done, they just need to be configured. So yes, there probably is going to be a services engagement like I just had mentioned. And just one more question at this point in time. I think you mentioned that highlights are not carried through to the mobile. Would that be the same for redaction? Okay, that's a really good question. What we're talking about here is note types. Highlights definitely would not come through on the mobile device. However, when we're talking about redacting information on documents, that is somewhat dependent upon how your redactions are going to be configured. I'm always a big proponent for saying when we're burning a redaction into a document, putting black to cover whatever is behind that, let's create a new, at least version of that document, typically writing that to a new document type, where that black truly is burned in. That is no longer a note when it's burned in like that. So that's not going to be something that's, I'm sorry, that would be something that would carry through to the mobile device, that you would see the black. If you're configured a little bit differently, where it might just be a note type that has appropriate permissions, I think that's something I would recommend that you test. Have a great day to everybody.